Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm Danielle with Damn Fancy Creations, and today we are switching things up, and instead of doing a tumbler tutorial, we are going to be making CAR FRESHIES. I have had the items to make CAR FRESHIES for about 4 or 5 months, but I have just gotten around to playing with them this past month. And I have made several batches of them and have learned tons just by making them. And I know that there are several different tutorials on these, but like I say in all of my tutorials, I know that you guys, including myself, like to kind of pull different things from different tutorials and kind of find what works best for you. So in today's video, I am going to show you guys how I measure out my aroma beads and my fragrance oil, how I color them, how I bake them, decorate them, and string them. So there are several steps in this tutorial that I'm going to go over, and it may sound like a lot, but it really is pretty simple to create everything because each step really isn't, you know, too time consuming or hard or anything like that. So CAR FRESHIES do cost a little bit more to get started, but once you have everything, you can make several batches and easily make your money back if you plan on selling them. And another reason why I am loving these CAR FRESHIES is because when you make a batch, you have a ton on hand, or at least I do. You don't have to make as big of batches as I have been making, but I like to have them on hand because they're easy to hand out to people. So you can give them to your friends and family. You can sell them, obviously. You can add them to your tumbler orders as a thank you to your customers or all that kind of stuff. One thing I will point out if you are going to start making them is test out your fragrance oil, because that will make a difference in the life of the CAR FRESHIE. Because if you just buy cheap fragrance oil that you can get from Amazon just to save some money, then chances are your CAR FRESHIE is A, not going to smell very well, and 2, not last as long as if you would have gotten quality fragrance oil. And I purchase all of my fragrance oil from brambleberry.com. I have actually used them for years, just purchasing different things. I actually used to make soap and wax melts before I even got into the whole tumbler world, and I would use their fragrance oil to scent my soap and my wax melts. They have tons of different scents, and all of them that I have tried over the years, I have not had one complaint on them. They just smell so good, and they don't have that chemical smell like several of these artificial scents do. They just smell fresh and clean, and I really like them. You don't have to purchase from there. Obviously, if you have a supplier that you like better, then you can definitely stick with those. This isn't something where you have to use these scents. It's just my personal preference, just because I have used them for so long. But if you guys are ready to see how I make my CAR FRESHIES, let's get started. Alright guys, so the very first thing I'm going to show you how to do is measure out your aroma beads. I use mason jars, just the regular 16-ounce ones. So you're going to need aroma beads, mason jars, mica to color it with, and fragrance oil, and obviously your cookie cutters to pour your aroma beads in once they are cured. Now with aroma beads, you might want to test out a few before you buy a huge batch of them. I got these on Amazon and they seem to work pretty well. So to start, I'm going to put my mason jar on my scale and hit tare, which brings everything back to 0. I'm changing it to ounces right now. It was in some other form of measurement. And I am going to fill my jar up with 6 ounces of aroma beads. Now, depending on your beads and your fragrance oil, you may have to adjust the measurements a little bit. I tried a couple different measurements before I settled on this one. So now that I have 6 ounces of aroma beads in my mason jar, I am going to add 1 ounce of fragrance oil. This is Frosted Fir from Brambleberry. I love their scents. And I love this particular scent. It just smells like fresh pine, which is one of my favorite scents. So I'm going to tare the scale again and pour the fragrance oil in until I have 1 ounce. Next, I am going to put some mica in my jars. I did not have a popsicle stick, so I'm just going to pour a little bit in there. And I do color my beads before they are cured. You can color them after, but since the mica will not absorb into the beads, it kind of just sits on top and it will rub off and come off on your fingers. If you do it this way, there's less likely of a chance of that happening as the color pretty much absorbs into the beads. And basically you're going to shake it up. You want to shake it pretty good the first time. You want to make sure that all those beads get coated with the mica powder and the fragrance. And once you have them shaken really well, we are just going to sit it on our counter. And as you walk past it, you are going to flip it a couple times and shake it every time you pass, just so the beads continue to get coated with the fragrance oil. So I'm going to show you guys these. You can see how they're not sticking to the side anymore because they are cured. All the fragrance oil is absorbed into the beads and they are ready to bake. So once your aroma beads are cured and ready to bake, we are going to put them in our cookie cutters. Now, a tip that I use for the cookie cutters is getting just a little bit of oil on a paper towel and rubbing it along the edges of your cookie cutter. This will help prevent the beads from sticking to the sides of your cookie cutter after you bake them. If you don't do this, you may have a hard time kind of getting them out of the cookie cutters. But when I coat them with oil, even after I let them sit for a little while after they are baked, a lot of times I will come pick up my cookie cutter and they will just fall right out. I don't even need to work hard to get them out. Sometimes I do, but typically they are super easy to just pop right out of those cookie cutters. And in several tutorials, I know that they use roofing nails to place in there for your hole. I do not do that. I actually drill my hole after I bake the cookie cutters and after I decorate them, just because I may want to decorate a spot and there may be a hole there, and I don't want that. I want to be sure I have a clean canvas to work on when I decorate things, and then drill the hole afterwards. And these two scents, or colors I shall say, are different scents. Sometimes I make them the same scent so I can make different colors, or you can do different scents that go together, like, I don't know, strawberry and a lemonade fragrance. But these were a little bit different, so I am just doing one color per cookie cutter. And I do pour my beads into a small little cup first, it is just easier to control the beads as you pour them into the molds versus pouring them from a stiff mason jar. And when you are pouring your beads, you want to fill the cookie cutters at least, 3/4 of the way full. The more beads you pour into the mold, the stronger and longer lasting your scent is going to be. And you guys can see that I pat down my beads just to make sure that they are pretty flat and smooth, and you don't have one section that may have a lot of beads and one that may not have any at all. So you just want to make sure that it's pretty even across the entire cookie cutter. And depending on how big your cookie cutter is, will depend on how many CAR FRESHIES you can get from a 6-ounce batch. My cookie cutters are typically between 3.5, 4 inches, and most of them are pretty wide. So I can usually get about 3 good size Freshies from 6 ounces. And I did forget to mention in the last section that if you notice that your beads are not soaking up the oil as quickly as you would like them to, then you can always add a little bit more beads. I may add 1 more ounce to my jar and shake it up really well again, and that seems to help them soak up some of that oil that may not have gotten absorbed with just the 6 ounces. And a lot of factors go into how long it will take the scent to get absorbed. I have had some jars that are good to go the next day, and then I will have some jars that take a week or so to absorb total. I think the fragrance oil has a lot to do with that. And the weather, I found that if it's hot and dry outside, then the aroma beads tend to absorb the fragrance a lot quicker. So those are just some tips that I've learned over this past month or so. And once your CAR FRESHIES are ready to bake, I bake mine at 350 for about 8 to 10 minutes. You can usually tell when they're done. They won't be loose on top. They will appear slightly melted and kind of gelled together, but they won't look flat and melted. And every oven is going to be different. Every aroma bead is going to be different. So I would suggest starting small batches at a time. Maybe do 1 or 2 Freshies to see how they do in your oven. Yours may not take as long as mine do, but once you kind of figure out what works best for you, then it is pretty easy to continue with the rest of your batch. So I baked these for 10 minutes at 350 and I let them cool. You want to make sure that your CAR FRESHIES are completely cooled before you try to demold them. And I basically just go around the sides and kind of pull the metal away from the CAR FRESHIE. And then they just pop out. So you guys can see that they will have a little bit of pokies just from the beads that kind of stuck to the side as they baked. So you can always take scissors and just trim those little points off. You don't have to do it. I mean, it's really just a personal preference. Some people just leave them. It's not really going to affect the car freshie in any way other than looks. I just trim them all off just so it's more of a smooth edge. So you guys can see that it's pretty smooth now. And then we're going to go on to the next ones. So all of these were the same. I am just demolding them and trimming off all the little edges. And these little llama cookie cutters are some of my favorites. They're so cute. And I love the cross too. And once you get all of the little points trimmed off, they will be ready to decorate. So I'm going to show you guys how I decorate mine. You can use things like puff paint, which seems to be the most popular option. You can use different flowers and cardstock, just all sorts of things, whatever you can think of to decorate them with. And I know you guys saw me use my blade real quick. Sometimes if there's like a little corner spot that I can't get with my scissors, then I will use my blade. It does help get those pesky spots that are kind of hard to get with scissors. And now we are ready to decorate. So these are obviously some different ones that I had. I just had several kind of made up. This is a fun little mason jar one. And I'm going to use some puff paint to decorate this one. And if you do plan on using puff paint, I would suggest going very slowly. Puff paint has a habit of forming little air bubbles. So if you are squeezing them and you get an air bubble, then it will kind of splatter paint everywhere. That has happened to me a couple times, even though I do go really slow. So then you have to either try to wash it off or cover it up with a different design. So this mason jar, I decided to add some flowers to it. And I did add different shades of green just to kind of give it a little bit more interest. And these colors will dry slightly different than how they appear in the bottles. So if you're unsure of how a color is going to look, you can always test it by, just adding a small little dot to a piece of paper or even the top of the puff paint bottle and let it dry so you know what the accurate color is. And this is real time, so you guys can see how slowly I'm working on them. So they might take a little bit of time to decorate. That is probably the most time-consuming part if you're going to be using puff paint. It will take a little bit because you're basically just painting an image with puff paint. So I'm going to speed this up a little bit so you guys can see how I do some other decorating ideas. So next we are going to add some little decorations to our llama. I just use a hot glue gun, super simple. And I picked up my ribbon and different little decorations at Hobby Lobby or Michael's. So they won't be linked in the comments. I'm not even sure where, if you can even get them online. I tried searching online for different prints and designs and just wasn't really happy with them. So I just went to the store and picked up some that I really liked. These flowers were from the scrapbooking section. And you might think that they are a little bit expensive. I think that it was around $5 for this entire pack. But if you're only using 1 or 2 per CAR Freshie, it really just adds out to be a few cents, maybe 50 cents, maybe less than that. So this one I did decide to decorate with leopard print. This is just gold puff paint. So I was just squirting little dabs on there. And then I decided to use a small paintbrush and apply the black, just because I didn't want it to come out in huge globs and mess up my leopard print. And if you guys watch my tutorial, you know I put leopard print on so many things. So of course I had to add some to my CAR Freshies. And I went ahead and added my flowers. The puff paint is still a little bit wet, but I did leave a little blank spot so I could add my flowers. So I love how this cross turned out. It was probably my favorite one that I had done. And this truck one is for my husband. He has a maroon Ram, so I figured that a maroon truck CAR Freshie would be perfect for him. So I just painted the wheels black just with my little paintbrush, just to add, you know, just something to it so it wasn't just plain red. And for this last one, I'm going to show you guys how I add cardstock to it. So what I basically do is flip it over and trace the CAR Freshie. I trace it on the back side so that if I did mess up on the lines, you're not going to see it on the front side. And we are basically going to cut this out. And if you are going to put cardstock over the entire CAR Freshie like this one, then we will need to make our hole for our string before we apply it. So you're just going to match it up. I needed to trim a little bit more off of this, but I would rather have made it too big than too small. So I am going to get my drill really quick. And my hole punch. So I am just going to drill my hole. This was just a bit that I had. I usually don't use one this big, but you can use one however big you want to. I will say that I would use a larger bit than you think you would need, because the CAR Freshie, like the Aroma beads, kind of form back together, so your hole is smaller than the drill bit. So I basically just hole punched my hole right where the hole for my string that we drilled is, and just so they match up. And then I'm just going to put down some hot glue and press on my cardstock. And then we're going to add some little flowers to this elephant. I love these sunflowers. They were also in the scrapbook section of, I want to say Hobby Lobby. It might have been Michael's. But I love these CAR Freshies because you can decorate them in so many different ways and they all turn out super cute. And this camper is the last one that we're going to do. I couldn't decide what I was going to decorate this one with, but it did end up being pretty cute. And this is another reason why I like going to the actual store to look at ribbons and flowers and things like that to decorate it with, just because you get a good idea of how, like the size of them, how big they're going to be. So these kind of were like string lights that you may see on a camper. And then I decided to add some little flowers to it. So this one turned out super cute. I loved these blush and navy flowers. I just really like them, especially with the maroon car freshies. So that's pretty much it for decorating. I just wanted to show you guys that you can decorate them in so many different ways, either with puff paint or ribbon or cardstock. There's so many different ways to decorate them, so just have fun with it. So once the puff paint is dry, I will definitely let it dry overnight. We are going to string them. This is elastic that I just picked up, or actually I think I got it off of Amazon. So now you guys can see I actually have my smaller bit in my drill. The elephant already has her hole, so we don't have to worry about that one. And I am basically just going to put the drill bit where I want my hole and just start drilling. My dog was messing with my tripod, so I had to kick her away. But the drill does drill pretty well through the aroma beads. I drill on both sides just to clear out any debris that may be blocking the hole. And then I do cut my string a little longer than you think you may need it, just so people have the option of hanging their car freshie lower if they want to, or if they want to shorten it, they can definitely do that as well. So I'm going to tie it at the base first. And then we are going to tie a knot up top. And there you go. It is that simple, you guys. So I will run through these others quickly so you guys can see, while my dog still continued to mess with my tripod. She is a puppy, so she likes to chew on everything. So you guys can see I just kind of pick a spot where I want my hole to be and drill it and string my elastic string through. And if you would rather use the roofing nails to string it, you can definitely do that. I just prefer to form my hole after they're all decorated. So once you get done drilling your holes and stringing them, that is pretty much it for making these car freshies. I store mine in smell-proof bags that I get off of Amazon, and I put my little labels on the front of them. I do go ahead and bag them up and store them just so their scent is contained in the bag and not just floating around in your kitchen. I am somebody who doesn't like really strong scents, so I prefer to bag these up as quickly as I can so I don't get headaches from them. But alone, you know, one individual car freshie isn't going to be super strong. So I will show you guys the bags that I use. I can't remember the size off the top of my head. I want to say they're 5x7. And I have my little sheets of labels printed out. And I just put them in there and put a label on it, and that is it. So here are some finished pictures of what some of my other ones looked like. I hope you guys really enjoyed this tutorial and maybe you learned something new or I answered some questions you may have. But thanks so much for watching. If you guys enjoyed this video, please be sure to like, subscribe, and share. Also, don't forget to catch the next video coming up that was picked just for you. As always, if you're looking for more tips, tricks, or tutorials, be sure to find my tutorial group on Facebook, which is linked in the description. Thanks for watching.